Hello and welcome to another tutorial in which I will show you how to install TextFabric on a macOS system. What you have here in front of you is macOS Sequoia in its latest version. I have a fresh install here, so no additional apps or programs have been installed. In order to get started, we open the web browser and are looking for the Anaconda package. Anaconda. And we can directly type in download. Here we are, Anaconda download, skip registration, and here you see our download for Mac installer. I am presently on an Apple Silicon system, so we click on Apple Silicon. Depending on your internet connection, it will take more or less time. I'm here at Andrews University, so the 780 megabytes should come in here in a couple of seconds. So let's open already the Finder and move into the Downloads folder. Excellent, Anaconda has now been downloaded. We double click and start the installer. Yes, we allow to run the program, continue, and we accept all defaults. That is for our setup the best. You see I just continued, clicked on yes, accepted, and moved on. Depending on how strong your machine is, it obviously will take longer or shorter. In my case, I am actually running macOS here in a virtual machine where I have dedicated 8 GB of RAM and 4 processor cores to the virtual machine. Excellent. The installation just finished, so let's continue, close, and yeah, we can move the installer into the trash, so the download folder is empty. Let's go back here to the web browser. What you could do is at this stage put into your bookmark my GitHub TextFabric installation tutorial. So when you go to GitHub and then Oliver Glanz, you will see here my GitHub page. You can go to TextFabric in this repository, and then you see here the research workshop series. So you might want to bookmark this site. That could be handy because it contains a whole tutorial series on how to get started with Jupyter notebooks, how to start doing TextFabric searches, how to do data mining, how to analyze the search results, and these kind of things are all being made available in the form of Jupyter Notebook tutorials and can be handy for you getting used to work with TextFabric. Anyway, we got Anaconda installed, so the first thing I would like always to do is to open the Anaconda Navigator. It's basically the Anaconda package that shows you the different apps and the different tools that come with the Anaconda package. We will not be using really the Anaconda Navigator as part of our TextFabric research environment, but the reason why I like to start this first is to make sure that we have the latest update of Anaconda installed on the machine before we proceed to the installation of TextFabric. So here we see there's a new version available. Yes. Do we want to quit? Yes, we want. And yeah, we now update the Anaconda Navigator. Looks like we are done. Let's launch the Navigator. Here we go. Loading packages. And yeah, we have everything set up and running. So what we now can do is we can just close the Anaconda Navigator and move to our next step, namely installing TextFabric. The way how we do that is by going to the terminal, and we are opening a session here, and with Anaconda we can now use all Python and pip commands. So we do pip install TextFabric all. So what the command does is it tells you that we want to do not only install TextFabric, we also want to include all tools and features that come with a full version of TextFabric. There are different options possible. You can read the instructions on the GitHub site. For example, when you want to install it on an iPad or on a smaller device that doesn't have as strong of a hardware as a normal computer, you could just reduce the installation to the bare minimum. For example, to allow TextFabric to be installed in its minimal version with just the ability to get contact to GitHub. Anyway, in our case, we are running on a real computer, on a real machine, so we choose all and then we run the command. We're done. So a very quick installation. So TextFabric is now running on your computer. To quickly test that, we could now load a certain TextFabric database. Let's go for the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia and launch the TextFabric browser. So we type the command tf and then etcbc. That is basically the GitHub repository of the Ibtalster Center of Bible and Computing, and there we want to load the BHSA, the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia Amsterdamensis. We run the command, and what's now happening is we are contacting the GitHub page of the etcbc, download the TextFabric BHSA data, and then again can take longer or shorter depending on the speed of your internet connection. After the data has been downloaded, you see what's happening here right now. It will be computed in such a way that the single files are cohered, connected with each other, and are available for searches and other type of data mining procedures that you might have in mind. As you can see, now the download has been completed, and the computation has been completed, and the TextFabric web browser just started. So when you look here at the TextFabric browser, you can have access to the entire Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 here of Genesis, or any other book. You can also go and see the morphological and syntactical information by clicking here on the drop-down window. At this moment, you see by default, you see the phrase functions, prepositional phrase type, and then function time or predicate, phrase function, subject, phrase function, object, phrase function. I'm not going into the details here now of the operations and the possibilities of the TextFabric web browser. For that, we have an specially dedicated YouTube tutorial, but just for the purpose of showing you that the installation is complete here on macOS, I'll just run one little query. So let's find all those phrases, phrase in which we are looking for subjects that have Adonai as actor. So we're now looking for a subject phrase in which Yahweh is contained as a word. So Yahweh will be found as a subject. Let's see whether this works. Excellent. Here we see the results. Yahweh Elohim. We can now look at obviously the first time where Yahweh appears is in chapter 2 verse 4. So here it is. On the day of the doing, right? Doing Yahweh Elohim, the heavens and the earth. Okay, so TextFabric is installed and it is working. We could now open a new terminal and get the Greek New Testament onto our machine as well. So we can do the command tf again, and in this case the Greek New Testament is being hosted by the Center of Biblical Languages and Computing here at Andrews University. So Nestle in 1904 would be the database, and here we go. The TextFabric files are being downloaded, and similar to the BHS procedure, we will, after the different TF files have been downloaded, the computer will do some computations to make sure that all TF files are being made available in the data format that can be then queried within the TextFabric browser or within a Jupyter notebook. Okay, you see that The Greek New Testament is loaded in the TextFabric browser. Obviously, instead of now the BHS, the Old Testament, we have the New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, 2, 3, and so on. Let's go to John chapter 1, verse 1, and you see here the complete analysis of morphology and syntax. Again, you have here the different options available. Let's run a little query to show you that indeed the TextFabric module is installed here on this macOS system and running. Let's look for simple word translate, and that would be, let's say, God. Here we go. We have a couple of cases where God was found. Okay, good. So we have TextFabric successfully installed. Let's just terminate the browsers by Control-C, Control-C, so both Old and New Testament will be shut down, and we are now going into the Jupyter notebook in order to show you how that would work. I like to use Jupyter Labs for that. That's my preferred way of working with Jupyter notebooks. Jupyter space lab. Notebook server should open. Here we go. And we are ready to start with a new notebook. Let's actually use here one of my Jupyter notebooks that I've also made available on my GitHub page. Let's drop this here into our file system. Here's the Jupyter notebook, and let's see what happens. Now we have obviously already installed the BHS, so if that's the case, we should be able to run this command fairly quickly. You see here the BHS as well as the Greek New Testament are available. Let's see whether this is truly the case, because if they are downloaded and if they're on the system, both BHS and Greek New Testament should load pretty fast. So let's do this. Let's load TextFabric, the TextFabric app and tools. It's loaded already, and now let's load both the BHS as well as the Greek New Testament. And well, now excellent, we will run into a problem, hopefully. Namely, you see here that there are certain files, namely here these modifier files that we have loaded by purpose here as additional TextFabric features for the Greek New Testament. They are being requested to be downloaded from GitHub, and we have only 60 requests per hours. Now what's very likely going to happen is that we will run out of those 60 requests per hour. So you see here we have only 39 left for this hour, and once we are exceeding our 60 requests per hours, the whole process will stop, come to an end, and this is what you're seeing here, request. So failed with 4.3 rate limit exceeded. Thus, we are stuck. And this is an important point because the TextFabric installation really has not finished until we have not increased our GitHub rate limit. And here you see why, right? We cannot continue our process. So therefore, let's go and have a look at how we can increase the GitHub rate limit. If you go to my GitHub site, you'll see here in the TF001 introduction tutorial how to do this. In fact, let's click on this and then you'll see what type of codes we have to run in order to increase our GitHub rate limit. You'll see that there is a section at the end of the notebook that tells us GitHub and rate limits for download. Important indeed. It is important. As you saw, we were not able to continue with our TextFabric installation of some of the modules of the Greek New Testament. So we are going to click here on the instructions on how to increase your GitHub rate limit. I'm not going to read with you here through the site. You can do that for yourself, but the processes are being explained that you should follow. First, create a personal access token. If you click on this link, you'll see that you have to sign into your GitHub account. I'm not sure whether you have a GitHub GitHub account. If you don't have, make sure that you create an account. In my case, I do have a GitHub account, so let's use this here. And you're now getting to this page that says personal access token. You have to create a personal access token in order to increase your rate limit. So in order to do so, you go here to generate new token classic. You can give a note here so that you know what this access token is for. Then expiration date, I would suggest you choose no expiration date. In that way you don't have to recreate new access tokens on a regular basis. Then you click on repo, workflow, write packages, delete packages, all the admins. And then at the very end, you do again here your admins. That should do it. Well, full control of projects as well. Generate token. Now what you see is you will get here this token, and this one you need to copy and save. Save this into your password program that you might have, or some sort of text file that you can save securely. So we have now cached our access token. Let's go back to the instructions. Here with the instructions. So we are on a Mac system, and here we have to add our token to the terminal configuration file. We do this by nanoing into it. So let's open a new terminal, new window. Here we go. And then you can just copy paste this command into your new terminal. Copy. So we should have to sudo in it. So type sudo nano and then run enter. Here we go. And now we can actually write into the file. Make sure that you get to the end of the file, and then it says that we have to put the following lines into the file. So you can just copy paste them. Right click, copy, go into our terminal, and then here we paste it in. You see now the 3 axes. The 3 axes are the space holders for your GitHub access token. Here's your access token. So you just copy paste this access token and make sure you replace the 3 axes with your access token. Here we go. Okay, now you just do Control X and say yes for saving. We are good to go. So you can now just close your terminals. We need to make sure that they are indeed closed. Here we go. We are all set. What I usually recommend is to restart your computer at this moment, and that's what I'm going to do here now too. So here we go again. We have just rebooted. Let's open our terminal and let's go into exactly the same Jupyter notebook that we just had, Jupyter Lab, the one that we ran into our download rate limit issue. Here we go. Here's the notebook. Let's load TextFabric again. This is the command, right, that we ran that triggered this error message. Now, since we have increased the rate limit, we should no longer run into this issue. So let's run the command. So as you can see, the rate limit is now increased from just 60 requests per hour to 5,000 requests per hour. That's plenty enough for any dataset to get downloaded and be used within the TextFabric environment. The situation illustrated, it's highly important that you indeed follow through and increase your GitHub rate limit. Only that will allow you to use any type of dataset that TextFabric makes available. Okay, so everything is downloaded now and working. Let's see whether we can run this query. Yes, it's working. Let's look for, let's say, the word lex is Abraham. Indeed, we find Abraham in Genesis chapter 20, verse 1. Do we find him in all of chapter 20? Here we go, 8 times Abraham appears. Anyway, you see how TextFabric is operating well and running on our macOS system. And this was really the complete installation guide that you need to follow if you have a macOS system running. So to summarize, you first need to install Anaconda. After you've installed Anaconda, install TextFabric. After you've installed TextFabric, go and increase your GitHub Rate Limit, create this access token, and put it into your terminal configuration. And then you're ready to go, and you can use TextFabric for any of the research projects you want to use it for. I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.